The year is 2025. Los Angeles, a city of dreams, becomes a city of nightmares. A monstrous firestorm erupts, consuming everything in its path. Smoke blots out the sun, turning the sky a menacing red. The air crackles with heat. The acrid smell of burning fills the air. This is not a scene from a disaster film. This is real. This is the story of the day fire consumed Los Angeles, leaving behind a trail of devastation and heartbreak. A tale of how a city known for its resilience faced its greatest challenge yet. It began on a day like any other. The sun beat down on the city, already parched from a long, dry summer. The Santa Ana winds whispered through the canyons, carrying with them a sense of unease. Then, a spark. Perhaps a downed power line. Perhaps human carelessness. The exact cause, lost in the inferno that followed. What started as a flicker quickly grew, fueled by dry brush and fanned by the relentless wind. The fire jumped from hillside to hillside, devouring everything in its path with terrifying speed. The Santa Ana winds, known locally as the Devil's Breath, became the fire's accomplice. They whipped the flames into a frenzy, pushing the fire faster than anyone could have imagined. Embers, carried by the wind, became airborne arsonists, igniting spot fires miles away. From the Hollywood Hills to the Pacific Palisades, the fire spread with terrifying speed. It crossed freeways, jumped canyons, and turned neighborhoods into infernos in the blink of an eye. Panic gripped the city. Sirens wailed as residents, caught off guard, scrambled to evacuate. Families grabbed what they could, leaving behind homes and memories to the mercy of the flames.
It all happened so fast. One minute we were having dinner, the next our neighbor was banging on the door, yelling for us to get out.
Thousands poured onto the freeways, which quickly became choked with fleeing cars. The lucky ones made it out. Others weren't so fortunate. Firefighters, overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster, fought bravely against a relentless enemy. The inferno was unlike anything they had ever encountered, a beast that seemed to have a mind of its own. It roared and crackled, consuming everything in its path with an insatiable hunger. The firefighters, clad in their heavy gear, moved with a sense of urgency and determination, knowing that every second counted. They were the city's last line of defense, standing between the raging flames and the lives and homes of countless residents. They risked their lives, battling not only the flames but also the intense heat, choking smoke, and constant threat of wind shifts. The wind was a fickle adversary, changing direction without warning and fanning the flames into new areas. The smoke was so thick at times that it blotted out the sun, turning day into night. The heat was unbearable, radiating from the fire in waves that made it difficult to breathe. Yet, despite these challenges, the firefighters pressed on, driven by a sense of duty and a desire to protect their community.
Chief Michael Johnson of the Los Angeles Fire Department remembers the sheer scale of the firestorm. It was like nothing we had ever seen before, he recalls, his voice tinged with a mix of awe and exhaustion. The fire was so intense, so unpredictable. It was as if we were fighting a living, breathing entity that was determined to destroy everything in its path. The chief's words paint a vivid picture of the chaos and danger that his team faced on the front lines. We were facing something we had never seen before, he says, his face etched with exhaustion. The toll of the battle was evident on the faces of the firefighters, their expressions a mix of determination and fatigue. They had been fighting the fire for hours with no end in sight. Every muscle ached, every breath was a struggle, but they couldn't afford to stop. The fire was relentless, and so they had to be as well. It was like trying to fight a monster that kept growing bigger, and the fire seemed to feed on itself, gaining strength with every passing moment. It leaped from tree to tree, house to house, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The firefighters knew that they were in a race against time, and that every second counted. They worked tirelessly, their efforts a testament to their bravery and dedication.
Despite their tireless efforts, the fire continued its rampage, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to ashes, homes and businesses destroyed in a matter of minutes. The scale of the devastation was almost unimaginable, a stark reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human life. Yet even in the face of such overwhelming odds, the firefighters never gave up. They fought with everything they had, their courage and determination a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. Section 6. ashes and tears. As the smoke cleared, the true extent of the devastation became horrifyingly clear. The once vibrant city of Los Angeles was now a haunting landscape of destruction. The fires had raged for days, consuming everything in their path with a relentless fury. The sky, once a brilliant blue, was now a murky grey, choked with the remnants of what had been. Thousands of homes and businesses lay in ruins, reduced to ashes and rubble. Streets that were once bustling with life were now eerily silent, the only sounds being the occasional crackle of a dying ember and the distant wail of a siren. The scale of the destruction was almost too much to comprehend. The air hung heavy with the smell of smoke and the sound of silence. It was as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for a sign that the worst was over. But for many, the nightmare was just beginning. The fires had not only taken homes and businesses, but also lives, leaving a trail of heartbreak and sorrow in their wake. The economic and environmental costs were staggering. Billions of dollars in property damage, countless acres of pristine wilderness gone. The fires had ravaged the natural beauty of the region, leaving behind a scarred and blackened landscape. Firefighters, exhausted and heartbroken, could only look on as they assessed the damage, knowing that the road to recovery would be long and arduous, and a city left to pick up the pieces. Community members, their faces etched with grief and determination, sifted through the debris, searching for anything that could be salvaged. City workers began the monumental task of cleanup, their efforts a small but vital step towards rebuilding. The spirit of the community, though battered, remained unbroken. The human cost was immeasurable, families torn apart, lives lost. The pain of those who survived was palpable, their stories of the human spirit. Memorials and vigils were held to honor those who had perished, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of community in the face of tragedy. The scars of that day, both physical and emotional, would forever be etched in the city's memory. But amidst the ashes and tears, there was also hope. People came together, united by their shared loss and their determination to rebuild. The road to recovery would be long, but the spirit of Los Angeles was unyielding. In the face of such overwhelming devastation, the city found strength in its unity and a promise to rise from the ashes stronger than before. Section 7, the perfect storm. In the aftermath of the fire, experts pointed to a confluence of factors that created the perfect storm for such a disaster. The devastation was unprecedented, leaving communities in shock and prompting a deeper investigation into the root causes. Experts gathered at press conferences, dissecting the sequence of events that led to such a catastrophic outcome. They highlighted the interplay of natural and human-induced factors that had been brewing for years, if not decades. Climate change, with its hotter, drier conditions, had turned the hillsides into tinderboxes. The rising global temperatures had exacerbated the dryness, making the vegetation more susceptible to ignition. This was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of increasing wildfire risks worldwide. The changing climate had altered weather patterns, leading to prolonged droughts and more intense heat waves, which in turn dried out the landscape even further. Years of drought had left vegetation parched. The lack of moisture in the soil and plants created a highly flammable environment. Dead vegetation accumulated over time, acting as fuel for the fires. The drought conditions were not just a temporary phase, but a long-term trend that had been worsening over the years. This persistent dryness had a cascading effect, weakening the ecosystem and making it more urban sprawl had pushed development further into fire-prone areas. As cities expanded, new housing developments encroached on forested regions, increasing the risk of fire damage. This urban expansion was driven by a growing population and the demand for more housing. However, it also meant that more people and properties were now in the path of potential wildfires. The proximity of homes to these fire-prone zones made it difficult to control and contain the fires once they started.
This was not just a natural disaster, but a man-made one as well, says Dr. Sarah Chen, a climate scientist at UCLA. She explains that human activities, such as deforestation and poor land management practices, have significantly contributed to the increased frequency and intensity of wildfires. Dr. Chen emphasizes the need for a comprehensive approach to address these issues, combining scientific research with practical measures to mitigate the risks. We have been warned about the increasing risk of wildfires, but we haven't done enough to mitigate it. Despite numerous studies and reports highlighting the dangers, there has been a lack of coordinated action to address the root causes. Firefighters are on the front lines, battling these blazes with limited resources, while policymakers struggle to implement effective strategies. The urgency to act has never been greater, as the threat of wildfires continues to loom large over vulnerable communities.
Section 8, Protecting Paradise. The 2025 Los Angeles fire served as a wake-up call. It forced the city to confront the realities of climate change and the urgent need for better fire prevention strategies. New building codes were implemented requiring fire-resistant materials and landscaping. Controlled burns were conducted to reduce fuel loads in the hills, and public awareness campaigns were launched to educate residents about fire safety. The city also invested heavily in its firefighting resources, upgrading equipment and increasing staffing levels. Section 9. Scars on the landscape. The scars of the 2025 fire run deep. They're a reminder of the destructive power of nature, exacerbated by human actions. But they are also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. From the ashes, Los Angeles began to rebuild, stronger and more determined than ever to protect its future. The fire may have consumed their city, but it could not extinguish their spirit. The people of Los Angeles, united by tragedy, were determined to build a safer, more resilient future for generations to come.